Okay, I'm going to try to follow out some of the discussion that's been going on here about existence, consciousness, and temporality. And I thought what I would do here is I'm going to do more advocating of people. Please get your local library to get a copy of this book. We can form a reading group. I'm going to try to explain a couple of concepts that are in here that will maybe help clarify some of the, I guess, ideas that you're finding in various forms represented in some of the videos, but I guess in the video form it's so hard to convey the way it would be laid out in text. I think I'm going to see, though, if I can't clarify just a couple of points. I think part of the problem is that in the bulk of Western philosophy, again, sort of broadly construed, whether you've studied it or not, you've inherited a kind of tradition that says the subject is one thing and the world is this thing over there, sometimes called, naive verbal realism. I mean, people somehow think that words simply label pre-existing items that are over there in the world, and that their eyes are little windows onto a world that is fully complete unto itself, independent of them, something like this. I think the reason that persists, and this is part of the argument, and I think it's found, it's not just Heidegger, it's partly Heidegger, it's Heidegger, Sartre, and Bakhtin, a lot of Kenneth Burke, and a good amount of, I think a lot of Eastern thought as well. But the question is the difference, you could cut it this way, say, what's the difference between time and temporality? Okay, time and temporality. Now, when I say time and temporality, I'm going to say there's two kinds of time and then there's one kind of temporality. Now, the two kinds of time are what could be called like cosmic time, like big time, the cosmic Big Bang, something like this. I think we take that to be objective. We say, oh yes, there's this objective thing called the Big Bang, or there's this ultimate cosmological fact about the origin of the cosmos and its ultimate demise, whatever it is. And then there's a whole nother set of time, which could be called measured time, when people sit down and they say, the time elapsed from T1 to T2, and that is used in countless forms and varieties, and again, it has to do with I guess, again, questions of what seems to be objective and out there in the world. And then there is this whole thing that we call subjective, which is temporality, or what I would want to call lived through temporality. It's also within phenomenology, people would just call it existence. That is, the word existence refers to a kind of ecstatical temporality, a dragging along, a clearing that in its gathering along sort of opens to what it's not. I mean, that's sort of what time is. Time isn't simply movement or change or velocity, things like this. I think, if you think about time as simply movement or change, you end up, I think many people, they end up very quickly in this kind of, well, it's all just now and everything's just now. And they're going to try to make this argument like the world is always just now. The problem with that is that the now makes room for more than itself. There are forms of retention and anticipation. Kind of, in the book I talk a lot about is it retaining that awaits. And I think that the larger argument is that lived through temporality, existence is actually originary, and these other two modes are derivative out of it, as paradoxical as that sounds. See, I think most people would say, no, that can't be right. But I think the more that you think about it, that really is right. Here, again, check out the book, right? You want to haggle. Get your library. Get a bunch of libraries. Go get 10 or 15 libraries to carry it and my other book, Sources, and I'll send you an autographed copy. Just let me know give me the list of the libraries that are carrying it now, and I'll do it to you. Right now, it's a limited time here for a month or whatever, something like that. 2 months. Or I guess anybody who does this. I guess I'm not going to put a limit on it. At any rate, see, time is funny there. Okay. I think the point is that lived through temporality is more originary than these other two modes that are commonly taken to be objective. And the one, again, is sort of cosmic time, and the other one is measured time. Let me see if I can clarify that. Look at some of the characteristics of measured time. Notice one of the key characteristics of measured time is that there has to be a you there who is before the beginning of the T1, and then the time lapse goes on, that is, the change or movement occurs, and then the T2 gets measured, and then you're after T2. See, that itself is radically different than existence. Existence, that is, the temporality, the lived-through temporality that we are, it's not a Cartesian subject inside another thing called the world representing. No, it has to do with the way time temporalizes itself through existence. We are a place and moment that through existence has cleared for different ways of relating to a time that otherwise would be only the now. But it's not as if it is only now. Right now, humans are a metaphysical place that opens to more than the now. Now, when people say, oh, you're just talking about memory and about, schedules and planning and, certain historical developments like calendars and clocks and these kinds of things, and then they're going to say that those aren't real. No, those are very real. That we are that part of nature which has learned to open to the past and to the future in unique ways. And to that extent, memory is not simply subjective. It has to do with part of the way nature itself has evolved the capacity to relate to itself temporally. And I'm going to go back to this argument. Okay. Notice here that measure time, we had it, right? Measure time, you're there before in order to start the T measure. You have to project a before in order to be there to project the first time. Even if you're going to go back into ancient time and you're going to sort of talk about a historical period that predated your birth, you have to be able to project a prior to the T that you're starting and then an after when that T is. But when you get at your own existence, right, your own existence, you emerge to and you come to self-consciousness, you come to self-awareness only after you've already begun. This is, again, Heidegger calls it thrownness. It's sort of, you emerge to self-awareness, thrown into existence, and by the time you come to self-awareness and to full recognition of yourself as being there, you are already implicated in a world and in a history. On the other side of that, when you look toward the future, you always have some not yet, some sort of anticipated future that's still outstanding, and that future will be always there. That is, by the time you die, that's really the end of all possibilities. So, I've said this in tons of other videos, it'll be like I'm dying, I'm dying, I'm dying. You'll never really get to I'm dead. If you get to I'm dead, you're not yet. You're still in the process of dying. Given that sense that we're thrown and projected in existence, existence is radically different than all measured time. Now let's go to cosmic time. Okay, how does cosmic time show itself? Well, it only shows itself through existence. That's kind of the paradox of why don't we feel all of the time lapse that it took to make way for evolution to pop, humans into the kind of self-awareness that they have. The fact that there are young Earth creationists who actually can't even imagine that it's that old, that should be telling people something. I think that the more that people can't see the way that their very imaginations are limited, that should show you, right, the degree to which recognizing cosmic time is a kind of emergence out of what we could call, again, psychology or memory. But if you come at it that way, it's going to be over-psychologized. You're going to over-subjectivize what is actually an ontological phenomena of one of nature's organisms. That is, we are an organism whose brain and body and way of socially interacting in the world has fundamentally altered the way that time itself can relate to itself. That is, time has turned into modes of existence for that organism that we call the human. Now, do other organisms exist? Well, again, there's all kinds of haggle there. And are there fuzzy lines? Again, that's a very difficult issue. But let's see if we can't, take... for those people who want to say it's always the now, and I'll try to post some other videos here, but take if I just move this pen as I move the pen, there is one sense in which the pen always only is wherever it is. And yet with talk, I can talk about where it was and where it will be. I might even talk about the company that it came from and when I bought it and ultimately how it's going to be garbage sometime beyond this context. In these ways, nature has ripped itself open from a place and moment that could be said is like trapped as a, what do you want to say, a transcendenceless, lifeless, the inorganic realm of matter in time, and that on a different level could be seen as again just a subcomponent, right? It's on a different level we find life, and life has negentropic dimensions. Life is open both to a past and to a future. See, I think some people perhaps underestimate the degree to which the future is real in terms of possibilities, and the kinds of possibilities that nature has made room for have been amplified through the human, which is this language using part of nature. I think the more that we use these kind of separations between I'm over here and the world is over there, the more that you, again, get caught in all kinds of traps. We are somehow of the earth, not simply on it, and yet the world is at a distance for me, right? I think it's hard to get at it. Maybe the last thing I'll say is that, when I was younger, I kind of believed that in order for change to be recognized or registered, there had to be something that was unchanging. And I kind of had this notion, and I think this is the notion that some people have, they imagine something like a self or a deep consciousness behind all appearances that's registering all of the changes in the world around them. And I think this is sort of the way some people think about it. They'll say that, yeah, in order for change to be registered, there has to be something unchanging in order to recognize that change. No, that's really not necessary at all. I think what you really need is differing rates of change intersecting. And when different rates of change intersect, it opens up what could be called objects, right? When Dewey says where communication occurs, events turn into objects, things with a meaning. This is what's happened through, again, that part of nature that we ourselves here, us today, are. We have become a kind of place of the eventfulness that deals in meaningful objects, and one of those objects is this thing that we call a life. Is a life a thing? Is it really an object there? No, that's just a way of talking. Now, if we say it's just a way of talking, we don't want to diminish what talking is. Talking is a kind of self-negating, room-making worlding. The world comes out of our talk. And when I say that talk is a kind of self-negation, or that talk, it internally negates, the point there is that when you listen to a tongue, if you don't know the words, all you can hear are noises. But if you know the language, you don't hear the noises, and instead you hear the words. That's kind of what I mean, that words are words when they're not what they are, and they are what they're not. When they're just the sounds, the acoustical blasts, they're kind of not really words. And in that sense, they're like a mirror when you're looking at the surface of the mirror. But when a word is a word, that is, when a sound has become the conveyor of a word, it's like recognizing an image in the mirror rather than looking at the surface of the mirror. And to the people who want to say, yes, the mirror is always reflecting. Well, yeah, light is always bouncing off of the mirror. It's even bouncing off of the frame. But the question is, the image that can be seen in the mirror is always relative to the perspective of the observer who looks at the mirror. Is there an image there on a mirror independent of an observer? Okay, thank you.